it off to you to introduce the rest of our panelists and get us going on building book resumes.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Um, Hopefully I can share my stuff. So I hope you can see everything. And not more than you need to see. Hi. As I said, I'm Skip Dye, and I'm joined today by Kelly, Chuck, Caitlin, and Colin. We're going to introduce a resource called Book Resumes, which some of you may have heard me talking briefly about in the last session, which is a part of the United Against Book Bans initiative. I know that some of you already participate in this project, so thank you. Thank you so much. The goal of this presentation is to explain what book resumes are, why they are important in responding to book challenges, and to encourage you, if you don't participate, to please consider adding your titles to the project. Book resumes are practical advocacy tools used by librarians, educators, and community advocates when books are being challenged or questioned in schools and libraries. By the end of this presentation, we hope you'll see how publishers participating can strengthen this resource and also help protect access to books. So here we get started. So let's see. Next slide. Is it going? Did I get it? Yes, Kelly.
Hi, everybody. So I'm Kelly, the Director of Library Marketing, and I work closely with all of your titles. And it's very nice to see you all today. And thank you for joining us. And I want to take a moment to thank the whole team and Skip for all the work you do in this area. And we're going to dump a lot of information on you, but like we said, we'll have time for questions at the end. So in recent years, the number of book challenges in the United States has increased significantly. Libraries and schools are seeing more requests to remove or restrict books, often focused on titles that address such topics as race, identity, gender, and social justice. Many of these challenges are organized efforts rather than isolated complaints. For librarians and educators, responding to these challenges can be difficult because they often need to provide clear, credible information about a book quickly. Thousands of titles are being challenged because these books address LGBTQ themes, race, or social justice. This growing environment of scrutiny is exactly why initiatives like the Book Resume Project have become so important. A resource with reliable information about a challenged book can help keep that book on a shelf. Next slide. To understand why book resumes are helpful, it's useful to understand how a book challenge typically unfolds. First, someone files a complaint requesting that a book be removed or restricted. Then a review committee is formed. This committee might include librarians, teachers, administrators, and sometimes community members. The committee reviews the book and gathers information such as professional reviews, curriculum relevance, and the broader context of the work. Finally, the committee makes a decision. The book may be retained, restricted, or removed. Because these reviews often happen on tight timelines, having reliable supporting materials readily available is extremely valuable. Next slide. One of the biggest challenges in these situations is that discussions about books are often based on isolated passages rather than the full context of the work. Sometimes a single excerpt is circulated online or presented at a meeting without explaining how it fits into the broader story or the broader themes of the book. Librarians and educators may not always have time to quickly assemble all the information needed to explain the book's literary merit, themes, or educational value. As a result, committees may lack the full picture when making decisions. This is exactly the gap that book resumes are designed to fill. Next slide. The Book Resume Project was developed as part of the Unite Against Book Bans initiative, which is supported by the American Library Association and many partners across the publishing and library communities. The goal of the project is simple: create clear, fact-based summaries of books that are frequently challenged or may be at the risk of being challenged. These summaries are then made freely available online so librarians, educators, advocates, etc. can access them when needed. By compiling key information in one place, book resumes make it much easier to provide accurate context and professional evaluations of a book. Currently, there are over 800 book resumes. Year to date, there have been over 40,000 unique visits, with the average visitor downloading multiple titles. The most popular titles are All Boys Aren't Blue, The Bluest Eye, and The Perks of Being a Wallflower. What is a book resume? A book resume is essentially a 1 or 2 page document that highlights the most important information about a book. It includes a brief synopsis of the book, major themes, professional reviews, awards, and recognition, and information about the book, why the book is relevant or meaningful. Think of it as similar to a professional resume, except instead of summarizing a person's achievements, it summarizes the literary and educational value of a book. The goal is to present information clearly and concisely so that decision makers can quickly understand the book's significance. Typical use cases include school board meetings, library reconsideration committees, community advocacy, parent and educator discussions, and efforts to raise media and public awareness. This slide shows where book resumes fit into the typical challenge process. Once a complaint is filed and a review committee begins evaluating a book, they need to gather reliable information about the title. A book resume provides exactly that. It offers a quick overview of this book's themes, professional reception, and educational value. Instead of relying on fragmented or incomplete information, committees can look at a single, well-organized document that provides the full context of a book. This helps support more informed and thoughtful decisions. Pass it over to Caitlin.
Thanks, Kelly. And hi, everyone. I'm Caitlin, and I'm part of the pre-K-12 education marketing team here. I work very closely with a lot of you, so I know you have some great books that would work for these resumes, so excited to walk you through the process. So what makes a strong book resume? They have a few important characteristics. First, it should be factual and objective. The goal isn't to promote the book, but to present accurate information. Second, it should give context of the book, so explaining the purpose clearly. Third, it should distinctly explain the themes and educational value of the work, helping readers understand why the book matters. Fourth, it should include credible sources such as professional reviews and awards, which demonstrates the book's recognition within the literary community. And finally, it should be concise and easy to read, since people using these documents often need the information pretty quickly. Next slide. So most book resumes include several key sections. They start with basic information such as the title, author, publisher, publication date, and recommended age range. Next comes a brief synopsis of the book so readers understand the overall narrative or subject. The resume also highlights important themes and educational value. Professional reviews from recognized sources like School Library Journal, Kirkus, or Publishers Weekly are often included. And finally, the resume lists awards or recognition and may include a short statement explaining why the book is important. So this slide shows an example of what a completed book resume might look like. In this case, we have the first page of the book resume for Two Boys Kissing by David Levithan, which is a widely recognized and frequently challenged young adult novel. The template reflects the one that's used by PRH. Other publishers may vary the layout, but the information is the same. So this resume highlights the book's central themes, such as identity and community activism, as well as its professional reviews and major awards. And then on this slide, you can see the awards and some additional media resources. Also, note at the end a section called Response to Challenges. This section is optional. This information is pulled by researching online if the book has been challenged and covered in the media. Seeing a completed example helps illustrate how these documents bring together multiple sources of information into a single, easy-to-use resource. And now we're to Colin.
All right, thanks, Caitlin. Hi, everyone. I'm Colin. I work in pre-K-12 marketing with Caitlin, and great to see everyone. So our next slides are going to be, publishers play a crucial role in the success of this project. We publishers are the most reliable source for information about their books, whether it's the official synopsis, professional review excerpts, or details about awards and recognition. When publishers contribute to the book resume project, they help ensure that the information included is accurate, complete, and authoritative. Their participation strengthens the quality of the resource and helps advocates defend books more effectively. Fortunately, participating in the Book Resume project doesn't require creating entirely new materials. We're going to share with you some of our templates that we use and give some of our best practices. Most of the information needed already exists in your catalogs, press materials, or even in metadata. Publishers can contribute by identifying titles that may benefit from a resume and providing key information such as the synopsis, review excerpts, awards, and recommended age range. How do we identify titles? We can give you access to the United Against Book Bans folder that lists titles that have been challenged. Also, you may have titles that you feel could potentially be challenged and proactively add them, even if they aren't currently on the list. From there, the resume can be drafted. To assist you as you get started, we are willing to help you review your resume for accuracy of layout and information. After you feel comfortable, you can submit the resumes for inclusion in the book resume database. The process is designed to be efficient and collaborative. We know that you may have questions, but some common ones are, for one, who creates these? For Penguin Random House, each of the publishers marketing them compiles them. Because our size, we have a centralized area where we place the finished book resumes and we upload them en masse to the UABB website. What information do publishers need to provide? As we noted, most of the information should be already available to you to compile in your metadata, in your file of awards and reviews. The one exception may be you need to research about media stories regarding book challenges. And if there is information about if the book was successfully kept on the shelf, this is great to have. How much time does it require? As most of the key information is available, the time to gather the metadata is minimal. The most time consuming is doing the research or doing the searches if a title has been challenged before. This is usually, a quick Google search. The last common question is, why is publisher participation important? The book resume is a powerful advocacy tool in fighting censorship. It supports our authors. It benefits educators, librarians, administrators, everyone who is going through the process of defending a book.
Thanks, Colin. So as we spoke about, we'll be sharing this document with all of you after the session is over with, and we have all these links here. I know it's link heavy, sorry about that, kids, but the United Against Book Bans, if you are not a member already, we encourage you to join. Whether you can join as a company, which you can, or you even as an individual, I do recommend people to join. You can find a link on their site about how to join. The book resume database, if you'd like to see and require and explore examples, it's a great site to begin. So I have the link there, and you can actually go and look to see how it's laid out. There is going to be some major changes to the resume site in the next sort of, we hope this year. One request that we're receiving as we see people are having to download multiple titles at a time is the ability for them to check a bunch of titles at once and just download them as one zip file. So that's one of the goals we do. Next, we have a series of the templates and how to do. This is what we give to all the publishers, part of the initiative. So form instructions for how to do the release, information on how to create a book resume itself, like what Colin went through earlier. We also have a tip sheet, like what are some great tips or best practices too. We have a link there as well. As we referred to earlier, I do have a link here to the Targeted Books Google Sheet. This is the sheet that is maintained by United Against Book Bans, the Office of Intellectual Freedom, and ALAs of when any books are reported as being challenged or banned. They will put in, they'll list the titles as they come in, and this way you can actually go and look to see if your titles are there. Again, what I recommend is to look to see if your title is banned, and And they will also tell you if it has a book resume or not. If it doesn't, then we hope that you will consider doing a book resume for that title. As we talked earlier, we are now in the process on the PRH side of actually proactively going through and doing books that we think will be banned or potentially to be banned. Usually, this is the scholar related to an author, and if they have a new book coming out and their previous book or books were banned. So we see a Scarlet A effect on the authors, so to speak, to where they end up getting targeted ahead of time. So we try to proactively put in the book resume information as soon as possible. Um, right now, the next major update to the book resume site with new titles will be during National Library Week, which is the second week of April. At that time, we're targeting to actually try to upload another 200 to 300 book resumes for people to use. So I've gone through this very quickly, and that's on purpose because we were thinking you'd probably have questions on stuff. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now, and then we'll all come up. But I just wanted to see if there was any questions from any of the attendees about the book resume project.
I think so far we're asked, I'm seeing some asks for sharing links in the chat, which I can drop a couple of those in the chat, but also we will be sharing all these resources and links in a dedicated resource post on my page. And actually, if you attended the book ban update presentation from this morning, we're going to kind of make one giant book ban, book resume hub, so everything is in one place. But I can, drop a couple of those links in the chat if you're just eager to explore them right now. And I'll give people a few minutes to submit some questions.
One of
Go ahead,
sorry.
Sandy.
No, I just want to point out, like, when we talk in the wild to librarians about this, about the book resumes and about the whole process, obviously we mentioned it, but and in all the slides you can see it. But the big point here is, like, there's not a lot of staff at some of these libraries, and the staff that is there is so stretched thin. So if your book gets challenged and they don't have a book resume or other assets to help argue or stick up for or defend your title, chances are they're not going to get to it because they don't have time. So it's kind of like the important part to just keep in your brain is, like, you want to make sure you kind of cut through all the red tape for them so that you you take away their, like, oh, well, there's no information on this book, I'll get to that when I have time, because that time is probably not going to happen for a really long time, if ever. So that's why this being proactive is so important, which I'm sure you got, but I just wanted to reiterate that because that's the conversation that we have a lot with librarians.
And even to expand that, Kelly, part of the reason why we're having this session, it stems from the fact that y'all have been receiving questions and requests about our client titles and the possibility of getting book resumes or more book resumes loaded into the database to make their lives easier.
Yes. Yeah.
And I know that some of you already are actively participating in the book resume project and posting. So again, I thank you for that. I know the effort there is there. I know some people may think that this may not be applicable to them. They'll say, well, my books are not problematic. I will say that you'll notice that we're seeing a lot of books that are being banned for many reasons, not related to the topics of the book. We're actually seeing books now being pulled off shelves because who the author is, their lifestyle that they live, who they love, and also what social media posts they put online, and also who they follow on X and on Blue Sky. We've seen that being a problem too. So it's gone a little bit broader. I wanted to ask too that we do get requests from our reps. I know just recently we had a rep ask about a title that was coming out on an author on a topic of the book itself to get a book ban done, and we do them ad hoc as well. As we said earlier, PRH, we try to do them in chunks because we have so much of it. I mean, Right now, PRH is well over 50% of all the books challenged or banned that we know about. That is something key too.
We do have a question in the chat. I think this is specifically for that Google Sheet of targeted books. What's the difference between the purple highlights and the yellow highlights?
I don't know. I'll give you a color guide to it. I do know, but I think I'll misspeak. But I'll send that, and I apologize. I should have included that in the note. I just got access to the list this morning for you guys, so I do apologize for the late addition, but I wanted you to have the most updated Google Sheet, and that link is active, but I'll share that with you.
And just to
Thanks.
piggyback on what Skip just mentioned about the reps, now that we've had this or having this webinar, I did send a note to all of the educational sales reps. So Dawn, Sheila, Caroline, and Linda, to elevate to any of you should a request come in from a distributor or they hear something from the marketplace where a title would necessitate a creation of a book resume for a title. So that's now on their radar. So they'll be more proactive in suggesting that to you as publishers. So just be aware that that is happening. Additionally, I know we have more content to cover, but I just want to mention that this is really intended to sort of get you sort of acclimated and familiar with book resumes, but you're not on your own as usual. We're here to help you. So, Caitlin and Colin will be available, make themselves available to you to review some of the early drafts of your first attempts if this is new for you. So don't feel like you have to jump into the deep end, dive into the deep end here. We'll happily review some of the resumes and give feedback, and then we'll let you free and fly from the nest when we feel like we're all ready to do this together. So it's a resource that's here for you constantly. You're not on your own, and we're here to support you.
I'm gonna share. Oh, we have one question. What kinds of content is most frequently targeted?
Right now, it's LGBTQ issues. It is tends to be BIPOC authors and stories. Next, suicide has really picked up a big deal. Anything dealing with suicide, and anything that deals with anything that's more that we looked on as sexual violence, of course, would be included in that. But it has really spanned into and expanded the topics that are being banned, as I said before, since the Little versus Lano decision, which is the Fifth Circuit decision. States like Texas, Mississippi, and Louisiana have now allow for government speech in libraries, public libraries. So we see now library boards are saying it's the government speech. So they are saying we now don't want any books written by this person in this library. We want all books removed by, say, Barack Obama or any Democratic president and stuff, etc., because they now can say that based upon their law. The First Amendment is now basically been hollowed out in those 3 states. So that's one of the challenges we're seeing. I hope that answered the question. And to that, some people have said to me, well, Skip, I only do adult books, and this really is only for like schools and school libraries. And I try to explain that actually we're seeing more and more adult books being actually pulled off the shelf. We're seeing books being pulled off the shelf, like, for example, we saw a bunch of books pulled off the shelf, like dictionaries pulled off the shelf in Florida and some other states as well. So it just because you feel like you may not do books that are candidates, I'm afraid that's anymore that's not the case. It's been broadened.
Thank you, Skip. Along those lines, actually, is there anything when publishers are creating book resumes for different categories, whether it's like a children's book, nonfiction, adult fiction, comics, is there anything they should be looking at to specifically highlight based on genre or category?
I think that in the book resume itself, I'm assuming you're thinking what are the most important things to highlight about the book. It's if it has received any review attention, ideally it should be from authoritative sources, like we said, School Library Journal, Library Journal. PW is also included in that list too, that people bring in. Kirkus, etc. What some people have also we've been seeing is that people reviews like they're in USA Today or People Magazine or even New York Times that people have been adding, and we're actually hearing from administrators who use the reconsideration forms. Those actually have for if the committee is made up of individuals who are not professionals, which some committees are not. Many are professionals, so they'll bring in parents to be included in this stuff, etc. Those seem to have more way if the People magazine liked the book than say if School Library Journal liked the book. So it's interesting to see where that's concerned. Any other questions? We're so clear and concise, isn't it nice?
A question about if you have book resumes created, where I think where would it be best to share? What teams would it be best to share? I don't know, Chuck, maybe this is one for you. Should you be flagging this with the sales manager, with your sales rep, and making sure people are aware of them?
Sure, yeah, we can work with the publishers through my team and with the education team. And then the goal here is once the publishers get used to the format and the content, they'll have access to the Google Drive to post them themselves.
Right.
I think at some point, will be my last question I'm going to ask Skip. Do you think at some point it'll just be part of like the TI sheet to just do one? Or do you think it's not literally not necessary for some books?
So what we're working on right now internally for PRH, and hopefully would be shared with the clients, is the ability to create the book resume on demand, just like you can create a TI sheet on demand. What would be missing from it would be it's going to be based off the information that's in the system, right? So if it's not in the system, then you got to add it in. But that's one of the goals, so that it would be easier because we're getting so many requests for this. I know some wholesalers are now wanting us to give them the book resumes proactively. I know at also trade shows at ALA, for example, both Adrian on the RHCB side and Carmela on the PYR side, they actually print out all the book resumes and have a book of them, like just a 3-ring binder that they have there, and that's maybe that's easy. That's easy for access there. So there was a question here. I just see that does the blue highlight mean United Against Book Bans is making a book resume? So that may be the case, and I'll tell you that. So what has happened is that if a book they've been getting a lot of requests because they will get requests from people to have one. UABB has reached out to. We've worked with a series of educators and academics who are volunteering their time to help start pulling them together themselves. And then they've been posting it. If a publisher sees a one that's been done by somebody else, and if you want to upload your new one, go right ahead, etc. The goal is if a title has been requested a bunch and it has not been there's not one there, then UABB has been getting volunteers to put some things up there.
Great. And we had
Skip.
another question, Skip.
Oh, sorry, Beth, if I could just jump in,
Yeah, please.
just to refine another point or introduce a new point, as Skip was talking about these external organizations and the work they're doing, just because we're on the topic of book resumes, I wanted to just throw another term out there. This is a different thing, but I want everyone to be aware of it, particularly those who exhibit at NCTE, and that's a book rationale. That's a different thing from a book resume, right? So we discussed today book resume, it's simple, publicly available information on titles, non-promotional. It's just the facts, right? If you're like a journalist, if you will. A book rationale is a bit more involved and complex. typically written by an education professional that argues for the import of using the book in the curriculum or for independent reading. I'm going to throw a link to the chat. PRH was a sponsor of the creation of a book rationale database that's available only to NCTE members. It's behind sort of a membership paywall. But just because we're on this topic of book resumes, if you hear the term book rationale, that's a different thing, and I'll include a link here for your edification. So just wanted to put that out there in case that term arises in your journeys.
Now, I want to say something before you ask your question, and the seeing this here too. What you're seeing in the database is things that are submitted directly to United Against Book Bans, Office of Intellectual Freedom, ALA, by librarians, by parents, by students. So the information you have to understand is the people are looking at the book they have in their hand, and what made that book that may be that they have in their hand may be an edition that is not your edition, but you may have the U.S. rights to it, but they may have for something, maybe a book that was with another publisher. We have this, I like, for instance, right now, if you look at Judy Blume titles, you'll see a lot of books that will say is published by Bantam. And that's Judy Blume's, her books are no longer with Bantam, they're with Simon & Schuster. But the books that was actually pulled off the shelf, cited, is actually our copy, our edition of our book that the rights reverted, some of them 10, 12 years ago, but that's the book that was pulled. So I just want to give you that caveat as you're looking at it. You'll see a lot of errors on it. We just need to be willing and to understand that this is being reported based upon the book someone has in their hand. Like sometimes they'll say the publisher was bound to stay bound on it, and it actually not realizing that Bound to Stay Bound is not the real publisher of the book. They were just a rebinder. Okay, sorry.
No, this is great. Going back a couple, because I think we skipped over one of the questions. Oh wait, I think was this, maybe you addressed this, Michael, and so forgive me if you did, but is it helpful to develop reading guides that could help inform educators on how titles could fit into the classroom? Was that about the resource you had shared, Michael?
Well, it's actually interesting. I hadn't seen that comment, but inadvertently, I guess I addressed it. And in general, yes, reading and teaching guides are always welcome. They help support a book's consideration and adoption. So typically for PRH, we commission educators to write those. Oftentimes reading guides can be created by a publisher, but I think any and all additional information, that's probably the big take home here, right? Like any and all additional information that you can create help support a book is going to be a plus. Just want to make sure you do it in the right ways. And I think of all of the different resources, I say this having not created one myself, but I think the book resumes are likely the easiest to pull together because it's publicly available information. You don't have to generate new content, but it's key to have all that information pulled together. So long-winded, but yes, do that more.
Great, thank you. And then another one that came in, does a database exist that tracks active or pending cases that require book resumes?
No.
Easy.
I mean, I wish would be a great resource to have. The problem is right now that's the hardest part of it is that most book challenges are not reported by a long run. In terms of legal cases, etc., most cases they don't cite particular books in the legal case. They're talking about themes. And that's the case. So most of the lawsuits are about themes, not necessarily particular books. In the actual lawsuit itself, they may be brought up as evidence, they may be brought up in declarations, but in the lawsuits themselves, I don't know. Even in Little versus Lano, where they talked about the books that are being pulled, etc., on pieces, they were used as examples to illustrate that they were pulling them up for viewpoint discrimination.
And I know, Skip, this was something I think we discussed in our other session, talking about when books are not only banned or challenged, but then there are also shadow bans when they're not officially on a challenge list. Is
Correct.
that anything that you recommend, like if you know of a title in your list that maybe is on the brink of challenge or is just being shadow banned by certain groups or organizations? Is that something that is also worth creating a book resume for?
It is. It's also very important to report. And that's one of in the resource document I shared in the last session, we talk about how to report a book ban or a book challenge. We're seeing a lot of books that have been restricted, meaning they take a book that is like, in some cases, there's libraries that have taken, public libraries have taken In the Night Kitchen by Marie Sendak and moved it to the adult section of the library because of pornography issues with it. We know of some wholesalers now actually sell little stickers of underwear that you can actually put on the baby in the book too, so that your book can still stay in the children's section of the library in those cases. So we've seen those huge extremes out there, if you can believe it. But yes, as part of the shadow banning, self-censorship, we've been hearing it from educators that they are just not considering books that may be a problem. They'll be maybe not rebuying or replacing books that they could have, as they say, weeded off the shelf. Sometimes they put it behind the shelf or put it in some restricted access. You have to understand, anytime you make a book or put a hurdle for the intended audience to get the book that they want to read, a reader, that is censorship. That's classified by law. So
Great, thank you. I'll give people just a couple minutes to keep sending in questions. While you do that, I just want to reiterate that everything that you've seen today, presentation, including the wealth of resources and templates, will all be shared on my page, and it'll all be in one post alongside our other book ban, book challenge resources, ways to get involved in your own state coalitions, learning more about ways to get involved in your own communities. And I'm not seeing any questions, but I don't know, Skip and the rest of the group, if you have anything else you want to share, any other tips, best practices.
just
Or
thank you. Thank you to Michael and his team, and to Kelly and her team, and all the efforts, and Chuck, as always, to your fabulous group. And to the clients, thank you for publishing the books you do, and please continue to make sure those books get out there and seen.
yes, and if you have any for our clients, if you have any questions, yeah, once again, the team here has shared their contact info, but you can also reach out to the Engage team if anything pops up as soon as we leave this virtual room, and we're happy to